Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I have a boxing match to break down for us. In this fight, I will be talking about the main event for the third Zuffa boxing event coming to us this Sunday, February 15th. And in our main event, we have the first heavyweight fight of Zuffa as Efe Ajagba takes on Charles Prince Martin. This is one of those fights where the contrast is kind of almost immediate or pretty obvious. It's youth versus experience, power versus craft, and physical presence versus ring savvy. And as most heavyweight fights go, the margins are thin, but the dynamics are very clear. Now, I say youth versus experience, mostly due to the fact that Charles Martin, who, if you don't know, he was a former IBF heavyweight champion in 2016 and had about an 85-day reign, which granted was like the second shortest in boxing history, unfortunately. But still, he's 39 now. He's been in two for a long time, has 35 fights. And of his 30 wins, 27 are by knockout. His power is legit, even at his advanced age. But that's the thing about heavyweight, right? Power is the last thing to go in age. Meanwhile, he'll be taking on Efe Ajagba, relatively young, and I say young when he's 31, so in his prime, and has done very well. He's currently 21-1, his last fight being a draw, but he is very highly skilled, ranked number 8 of all heavyweight boxers in Ring Magazine. Now, take that for what you will. I don't necessarily follow the sport of boxing as closely when it comes to MMA. So I don't necessarily know how big that means if you're ranked in Ring Magazine in comparison to being, say, I don't know, the IBF or the WBO champion. You see what I mean? So, though, this is going to be a very fun fight. And like I said, it's heavyweight. There's always going to be some sort of crazy moment, usually speaking. But without further ado, let's get down to the breakdown. Starting with Efe Ajagba. Ajagba is the definition of a modern heavyweight puncher. He's massive, strong, and carries serious power in both hands, especially that right hand of his. And when Ajagba plants his feet and lets his shots go, just about everything changes. He doesn't need combinations and bunches. He just needs moments. And those moments are very, very dangerous. What's important about Ajagba, though, is that he's not just a wild puncher anymore. And over the course of his career, he's become much more patient. As he understands distance better, he doesn't rush into exchanges as often. He's more willing to let the fight come to him rather than forcing the knockout, whether it's in the first round or onward. Most of it is Ajagba's jab. That is the key part of his game now. He uses it to control space, to line up opponents up, and to keep them at range where his power matters the most. When the jab is active, Ajagba looks composed and in control. When it's not, he can be a bit static, and that's where opponents look to exploit him. Still, the threat is always there. Ajagba doesn't need sustained dominance to win a round. He just needs one clean connection to flip the entire fight. Sort of like Deontay Wilder, like how he can be losing a round, but just he lands one shot and he drops his opponent, he wins the round. Now, on the other side, you have Charles Martin. Martin is, like I said, a veteran, former IBF champion, and 39, been around the two for a while. Oh, and like I said, he shared the ring with some of the highest level opposition you can think of. Now, he's a southpaw, which alone introduces a layer of complexity, especially for a heavyweight who sometimes prefers straight line engagement. And that's often much easier to do if they're both conventional or unorthodox. Now, Martin's game is built more on survival and experience rather than raw power. Though that said, like I said, 27 knockouts of 30 wins. He's doing something right when it comes to his power, especially at this stage of his career. He understands how to move, how to disrupt rhythm, and how to make fights awkward. He's not looking to outgun younger heavyweights. He's looking to outthink them. At his best, Martin uses his jab, his footwork, and his angles to avoid clean exchanges. He wants opponents reaching, missing, and resetting. And from there, Martin, he's comfortable slowing fights down, making them messy in subtle ways, and forcing younger fighters to show patience that may not have always been there, especially at heavyweight, where usually a lot of the fights come down to who lands the big shot first. Showing that sort of patience and forcing patience or a slower fight onto his opponents can make it very tricky. The issue for Martin, though, is that durability has become a real question mark. He's been hurt before, he's been stopped before, and against someone like Ajagba, those concerns are especially magnified, especially when he's fighting someone 8 years his junior. Now, when these two styles collide, the fight mostly becomes about distance and discipline. Ajagba wants this fight at mid-range. He wants to establish his jab, hold the center of the ring, and make Martin move around him. Every time Martin steps in the range, Ajagba wants to make him pay. Not necessarily with volume, but intent. Martin, meanwhile, he's going to want movement, wants to avoid standing directly in front of Ajagba for extended periods. He needs to circle, disrupt, and pick spots carefully. If he stays in front of Ajagba too long, danger is going to quickly escalate, and he will probably get knocked out. So I think early on, Martin may find some success just being awkward, and especially because he's a southpaw, using slight feints and movements is that could make Ajagba hesitant. But if Ajagba becomes too patient or just too static, I think Martin can steal rounds and find the knockout shot relatively quickly. But here's where I think the fight might tilt. Because Ajagba, he himself, he doesn't need to win every minute of this fight. He just needs to keep Martin honest. Plus, it's not for nothing, but Ajagba's also pretty good at winning rounds. He's also quite technical. Now, Charles Martin is too at certain extents because of the power that he has and just the experience. But I say all this mostly to keep in mind that Ajagba himself, he's actually pretty technical too. And he's, like I said, he's gone to a decision a few times in his career. So it's not to say that he can't be patient himself. Here's the trick though. I think youth is just going to play such a big factor in this fight, especially because, like I said, Martin being 39, and while his power has not diminished, place of power is the last thing to go, his speed certainly has. And while in heavyweight, you don't necessarily need to be the fastest, in certain exchanges where one punch decides basically everything, being able to land that first shot first is going to be quite essential. And I think that's where a lot of the advantages go to Efe Ajagba. So, for my official prediction, I'm going to pick Efe Ajagba. I think he's going to win via knockout. It's heavyweight, so 9 out of 10 times you're probably going to pick a fight to end via knockout and this type of thing. But I think just the youth, Ajagba's speed, and his ability to end the fight with one shot. Like I said, Martin can too. I'm not saying that he can't. But I think a lot of this fight comes down to who can land it first, who's going to be quicker on the feet, and who can move out of the way first. I think that all leads to Ajagba. Plus, he's a massive favorite in this fight. Literally minus 1,000. I think for good reason. And I think this is all, and I just think, like I said, youth, speed, reflexes, all this stuff just leads to, I think, Efe Ajagba being the one to win and come out with the W. So once again, I'm picking Efe Ajagba. I'm going to pick him via knockout in this fight. But with that being said, that's been my breakdown of this matchup for Zuffa Boxing 3. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. Remember, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see y'all next time.